What if everything you were taught about his name was only part of the story? What if the name Jesus wasn't the name spoken by his mother, resonated by his first followers, or used by the mystics? And what if that original name held a vibration, a key, meant to awaken something deep inside you? If you've ever felt hollow, like reciting prayers or worship songs still left something missing, this might be the moment your soul has been waiting for. Because what I'm going to share isn't just theological, it's a remembering. By the end, you won't just understand why his name changed. You'll begin to feel what it unlocks within you. Let's start by going back to the very beginning. The man most people called Jesus wasn't known by that name among his earliest friends. In Hebrew/Aramaic circles, they called him Yeshua. In ancient Jewish thought, a name is not just a label, it's an expression of identity, essence, purpose. To know someone's name can be to know them in their power. Yeshua means salvation, rescue, deliverance. It's a name rooted in action and deliverance. It wasn't chosen randomly, it carried intention. So how did Yeshua become Jesus? It wasn't a single change, but a long journey across languages, cultures, and empires. Each stage reshaped not only the sound of the name, but also its feeling, its intimacy, and even the way people related to the figure behind it. In Hebrew/Aramaic, Yeshua. This is where it begins. In his own time, family, and community, he was called Yeshua, a common but powerful Hebrew/Aramaic name meaning salvation, deliverance, or to set free. The name carried a sense of lived reality, earthy, close, and immediate. When someone said Yeshua, they weren't invoking a distant deity. They were calling to their teacher, their neighbor, their son. The name was warm, local, and personal, a sound that resonated with identity and purpose. In Greek, Isis. When his story spread into Greek-speaking lands, a shift was inevitable. Greek didn't have the sh sound, shin, so Yeshua became Yesu. Think of it like playing a song on an instrument missing certain notes. You adjust, but the melody feels a little different. Here, the intimacy of Yeshua began to soften. It gained a smoother, more Hellenized flavor, one that fit Greek ears and culture but lost a piece of its Semitic heartbeat. At the same time, this shift made the name more universal for the Mediterranean world, not just for Jewish listeners. In Latin, Jesus. As Christianity became increasingly tied to the Roman Empire, the name passed through Latin. The Greek Isis became Jesus. Here the politics start to matter. The Roman world valued order, power, and uniformity. By adopting a Latinized form, the movement could fit within imperial structures. But it also meant stepping further away from the grassroots sound of Yeshua. The name began to feel more official, more institutional. Something that could be stamped on coins, written in law, carved into stone. Less about the teacher you knew personally, more about the Savior proclaimed by empire. In English and other languages, Jesus. Finally, as centuries passed and Christianity spread across Europe, translations continued. In English, the J sound eventually appeared, a letter that didn't even exist in ancient times. By the time of the King James Bible in 1611, the name solidified as Jesus. Now it was global, recognized in countless tongues. But the texture had changed. The earthy immediacy of Yeshua had become something more formal, universal, and sometimes distant. We've traced how the name changed across cultures and empires. But now we go back to the original. Because in Hebrew, names weren't just sounds. They were codes, patterns, living vibrations. To know someone's name was to touch their essence. The name Yeshua was not just a label, it was a formula. And when we look at the Hebrew letters, we discover why it carried so much spiritual power. First we have Yud, the spark. The letter Yud is the smallest of all Hebrew letters, just a tiny dot. But don't let its size fool you. Mystically, it represents the seed, the divine spark, the starting point of creation. Think of it like the spark that starts a flame, or the seed that holds the potential of an entire tree. In Yeshua's name, Yud is the reminder that everything begins with the smallest spark of God within us. Following is Shin, the flame. So next comes Shin, a letter that looks like fire rising upward, with 3 flames pointing to heaven. It represents transformation, spirit, and divine fire. Shin is the purifying flame of the soul, the fire that both destroys illusions and refines what is real. It's the eternal energy that burns away what no longer serves you so that your true self can shine. Next is Vav, the connector. Then comes Vav, which literally means hook or nail. Symbolically, it is the connector, the bridge between heaven and earth, spirit and matter, divine and human. In the name Yeshua, Vav reminds us that the divine is not separate. It is joined to us, woven into our humanity. It's not about reaching for something far away, it's about realizing the link that has always been there. Then Ayin, the eye. Finally, Ayin, which means eye. But this is not just the physical eye, it's the eye of the soul, the inner sight, the ability to perceive beyond appearances. Ayin represents the awakening of higher perception, the ability to see with spiritual clarity, to pierce through illusions and glimpse the kingdom within. Putting it together. When you combine these letters, Yud, Shin, Vav, Ayin, something profound emerges. A spark Yud ignites a flame Shin, which bridges heaven and earth, Vav, and awakens the eye of the soul, Ayin. That's not just a name. That's a roadmap for awakening. A formula for transformation. And here's something even more striking. Yeshua echoes the sacred name of God itself, the Tetragrammaton YHWH. Some mystics believed his name carried within it the vibration of the divine name, making him not just a messenger of God but a living embodiment of the divine word. We've seen how the name Yeshua carried a hidden code, a living vibration of awakening. But if that's true, then we have to ask, why was this name slowly hidden, softened, and replaced? The answer is uncomfortable, but it reveals a lot about how history, power, and spirituality collided. First reason for change is about faith versus gnosis. In the early centuries, there were 2 ways people connected with the teachings. Faith, trusting in what you're told, believing in dogma, following an external authority. Gnosis, inner knowing, direct experience, awakening from within. Yeshua's very name pointed people toward Gnosis. Remember the letters? Spark, flame, bridge, eye. It was a path to inner transformation. But Gnosis is dangerous, not for the seeker but for systems of control. Because someone who knows doesn't need to be told. Someone who is awake doesn't blindly follow. Second, the threat of direct access. Think of it this way. If every believer realized that the kingdom is within, and that the name itself was an initiation into awakening, then what happens to the priests, the hierarchy, the gatekeepers? They lose their monopoly on God. They lose the fear that keeps people obedient. They lose the power to say, "You need us to reach him." And so, the direct doorway had to be blurred. Yeshua, the spiritual key, became Jesus, the figure of devotion. The living path turned into a fixed image. Third, from awakening to worship. The shift changed everything. Instead of walking the path of transformation, people were told to worship the man. Instead of decoding the name as a roadmap, they were taught to repeat it as a formula of obedience. Instead of inner fire, they were offered external rituals. It's not that devotion is wrong, but devotion without awakening is incomplete. It's like admiring a lamp but never lighting it. Fourth, the politics of empire. We also have to remember, Names don't change by accident. When Rome adopted Christianity, it needed a religion that unified the empire, not one that sparked rebellion. And Yeshua's original message? Too radical. He said the kingdom is within, not in temples. He said truth makes you free, not loss. He said you are gods in disguise, not slaves. An empire cannot survive if people believe they're free, divine, and untouchable. So his name and message were reshaped into something safer, more controllable. But here's the secret: erasure is never complete. The original name survived in hidden texts, in whispers among mystics, in the Hebrew scriptures. And today, seekers are rediscovering it, not to reject Jesus, but to remember Yeshua. Because one is a figure to admire, the other is a key to awakening. So after all this, the history, the translations, the politics, the real question isn't just what happened to the name? The real question is, what do we do with it now? Because if the name Yeshua carries within it a code, a spark, a flame, a bridge, an eye, then it's not just a word from the past. It's an invitation for the present. From history to practice. We're not just studying dusty linguistics here. This isn't about academic trivia. It's about transformation. When you say Yeshua, you're not just saying a name. You're sounding out a vibration that meant to rescue, to deliver, to awaken. Every time you let the syllables roll off your tongue, Yeshua, you are breathing a code of liberation. You're reminding yourself, I am more than I think. The kingdom is already within me. Faith plus gnosis together. This doesn't mean we have to throw away the name Jesus. Millions have prayed with that name and found light, healing, and love. That counts. But what if we combine both? Keep the love, devotion, and faith that people associate with Jesus. Add the inner awakening, gnosis, and direct fire hidden in Yeshua. Together they complete the circle. One anchors us in love, the other ignites us with truth. A name is a compass. Think of Yeshua as a compass. The spark, Yod, the seed of divinity within you. The flame, Shin, the fire of transformation burning away illusions. The bridge, Vav, the connection between human and divine. The I, in awakening, seeing reality as it truly is. That's not just his name. That's your path. Every syllable whispers, you are meant to awaken. So why this matters now? Look around the world today. Fear, division, and systems of control. It's not so different from the Roman Empire. And just like then, one awakened soul is enough to shake the system. One person who realizes the divine spark within cannot be enslaved by fear, manipulation, or lies. That's why rediscovering the true name matters. Not to argue over words, but to reclaim the power of becoming awake. So here's the challenge. Don't just treat this as interesting information. Use it. Meditate on the name Yeshua. Whisper it in silence. Feel each syllable vibrate in your chest. Let it be not just his name, but your reminder that the same divine fire lives in you. Because the real teaching isn't just who he was. It's who you are meant to become. So will you continue to treat the name as history? Or will you treat it as a living key to unlock your own awakening? The choice is yours. If this struck something true inside your bones, don't let it fade. If you feel lit up, share it. Tell someone this name, Yeshua. Say, I remember. If you're walking this path quietly, know you're not alone. There are others waking up. Others reclaiming inner knowing. Others hungry for truth, for the sacred frequency buried beneath words and dogmas. Subscribe not to a channel, but to your own awakening. Join us here wherever you are. Dive into ancient texts. Meditate on living name. Let the code awaken in you. Yeshua is alive. The name never lost its power. You were never disconnected. You are home.